I have a form of dwarfism called pseudochondroplasia. It affects the growth of my limbs in particular, and the health of my joints. For my disability, the signs of disability don't come until the person's about 18 months old. My parents were tall, my brother is tall, so I'd just grown up in these tall environments, and it was sort of seen as an anomaly that suddenly I had a disability. Growing up, there were very little representations of someone like me as a healthy human being in a healthy relationship. The message from very young is you go into a room and there are a bunch of doctors and they're prodding at you and measuring you and treating you as a specimen, essentially. You get the message that you're different, that there's something wrong, and that in society, your place is outside. So when you're looking at that from the perspective of whether you're going to have kids and you have a 1 in 2 chance of passing your disability onto another child, then the message that all those things send to you is probably avoid having kids.
For a long time, Sam Drummond avoided the topic of having kids with his partner Jo, until a painful experience brought the subject to the surface.
We were lucky enough to spend 6 months overseas and did a lot of walking, and I badly injured my knee. So pretty big part of our trip was just managing the pain around that. And having gone through that amount of pain, you realise that we don't have a lot of time on this planet, and we want to do follow our dreams. We want to do everything we possibly can. So one night I decided that we should have that conversation about kids.
We just popped in to visit a friend of ours who'd just had a baby. And so that kind of broke the ice a little bit because we were talking about their baby. And Sam would just kind of said, do you think that's something that we'll ever do?
It soon became clear that Sam and Jo both did want to start a family together, and that social assumptions about disability had been holding them back.
That was one of the big conversations we really had to work our way through, because we had to come to this conclusion really that, Sam's amazing and he's a fantastic person and we love him how he is, and whoever this new person was going to be would be amazing no matter how they are. Thank you.
It was clear after having those conversations with Jo that I'd been still stuck in thinking that disability is a negative thing. The idea that I shouldn't pass on a disability was an admission to myself, I think, that there was something wrong with me. But actually, I don't see there as being anything wrong. In fact, I think that's the wrong way to look at it. The thing that's wrong is a society that doesn't adjust to difference, that sees a very narrow way that humans should be, and aims door handles at that height, or has stairs instead of ramps, or has a button that someone who's vision impaired can't push. That's the problem that I see, is society not accommodating for those differences.
1, 2, 3.
There's always people that make strange comments without really meaning to, I think. And there was definitely an experience where I was having a ultrasound and the guy was sort of asking a bit about Sam because he was there when we mentioned that it was a 50-50 chance that the baby would have pseudochondroplasia as well. He said, "Oh, sorry." And I was like, but we don't actually see that as a bad thing. Disability and people with all sorts of different situations going on are all a part of the fabric of complexity of how everybody is different, and we need those differences in our community, and it's actually enriching for us.
Sam and Jo's daughter Gwen arrived in late 2019.
It's been absolutely wonderful. I've been really lucky to have been able to be primary carer for a lot of the time, and it's been one of the great honours of my life just getting to know her. She's extremely funny, creative. Her attention span is longer than mine, even as a 2-year-old. We did get the confirmation that she has got my disability through some x-rays. So her growth started to slow. And for us, it's changed nothing. So we're still parenting in the same way. We still let her rough and tumble. I think that's a really important thing. She goes and plays in the backyard or down by the creek. We're going to love her and we're going to try our best to nurture, and I'm sure we're going to make mistakes as parents, probably have already, but it's going to be nothing to do with her disability. My role now is to make sure that those barriers that society puts in place for me are minimised as much as possible as she grows up.